Welcome back to Prime Time. Shu and Shuey here holding it down. We're about to be talking the Week 3 NFL Slate. We're also in the midst of an underdog draft that has already started. And I'm up on the clock. But first, let's talk to Shuey. Shuey, what's going on? I had to pay up on that Raiders Arizona bet last night. You knew 5 seconds to go, 5 seconds to go, and we still had to have that backdoor cover on me. Knew it was going to happen to me at the end, but you must be feeling pretty good today.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about that. Not feeling good about how my Ravens ended up finishing out that game yesterday. As you can probably tell, my voice is a little hoarse from lots of happy and then later unhappy yelling. So hopefully I don't sound too bad today, but looking to talk some week 4 here with you. I'm sorry, week 3.
No, we'll be all right. You went to your first home game of the season. I'm going to be going to my first game this year. I'll be going to be going to the Eagles and Vikings game tonight. Can't wait for that. Let's talk about these two Monday Night Football games that we got tonight. We got Tennessee at Buffalo -9.5. We talked about it a little bit last week. -9.5 for Buffalo and 47.5 over on DraftKings. I think last time we left it, we were still willing to lean the points. But Shuey, have you had any change of heart here on Tennessee Buffalo game?
No, Buffalo at -9.5 is still one of my best bets for week 2. So that is my nope. I've got 2 bets tonight of my 5 from last week. So I'm still taking Buffalo at -5 there, or -9.5 as a best bet.
I like that too. I'm still leaning Buffalo. I'm actually starting to, with Gabe Davis being injured, I'm starting to think that maybe we avoid taking the points. I don't want to bet the other side of it. I don't want to bet Tennessee, but I'd be much happier. I'd be much happier leaving this one alone, and I might even consider the under, although it's come down a pretty considerable amount, 47.5. Let's go to that Eagles-Vikings game. Philly's favored -2.5. I'm taking the Minnesota side. I will take the points, and we've got a 49-point over-under. I'm starting to lean the over. It's 48.5 on FanDuel, so you could take that 48.5. That's not too bad either. I think this is going to be a nice shootout of a game. I think you've got two elite tier receivers, and when you see those two guys go up against each other, I really think we're just going to see some fireworks tonight for the home opener in Philly. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I still have the I think you had it last week as Vikings as +2.5 as a best bet.
I actually had them at +2. I'm pretty sure they were +2 at the time.
Yeah, can't keep track of all these changing spreads as the week goes on. Got to keep a closer look on it.
Yeah, Sunday night. We'll get into the bets this week, and to be honest, we got to a point where there was a number of games that I had. I had Cleveland -3.5. It's already changed to -4.5. I'm a little less on that. We have a few others. Kansas City, I ended up getting that line at -6. I'm really happy that it did. It's already moved to 6.5, and I think it's just going to keep going up from there. So if you are out there looking to bet, you want to make sure that you get some time where you can look at the lines on Sunday night, and maybe you don't take action right away, but at the very least, you take the time to look at them and say, okay, is this line even right? Because if it's not, you can get you can end up getting a huge advantage sometimes where the next morning, the line's already moved a point, 2 points, and you're probably getting the best line right at the beginning of the week. Let's go right into it at the beginning of the week. So we have Cleveland at -4.5 on DraftKings and FanDuel. The over-under, 38.5. Shuey, what are you thinking?
I love my NFC North matchups here. Underdog usually has a really good chance there. Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin has a really good record beating the spread here. So I'm taking Pittsburgh as one of my bets at +3.5, which I guess is now +4.5 from the time I put mine in. So I'll take the +4.5 on Pittsburgh even more now.
Yeah, I was leaning. Actually, I had it as a bet. It's more of a lean. I would at 3 points. 3.5 is a very big half point. I feel like, especially in division games like you're talking about. But if we are thinking about this game on a neutral field, that would mean that Cleveland's only a half point better than Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily know if that's true. I like their defense a whole lot better, and I think that they have enough offensive pieces. They just don't have that quarterback, but neither does Pittsburgh. And their line's not as good. Their defense is hurt. I think Nick Chubb's going to run all over it. For me, I'd probably stay away, but now I'm probably leaning that 4.5 Pittsburgh 4.5 here. It just feels like a little too big of a gap for me to want to bet any further than that.
Yes, they're probably going to try to beat each other up. There's going to be a lot of running this game, and I think that it looked like you were leaning the over at one point. I think this could be a very underwhelming game and not a lot of fantasy points from a fantasy aspect either.
Yeah, I was leaning the over at one point as well, but it's why it's a lean. I've already kind of reconsidered it, and the line has continued to drop down. So it feels like it could, if it gets down far enough, it gets down to like 36 or something like that. I might be back in, but I don't see that happening. So I'll probably just let it ride as is. Moving on, Houston at Chicago, our first Sunday game. Chicago's favored -2.5. 38 is the over/under. That's DraftKings, and 39.5 on FanDuel. So you got a little bit of a buffer there. If you are going to take the over, make sure you're looking at the DraftKings line, at least for right now. For me, I'm not a huge fan of either of these teams. I'm probably gonna favor the home team. I don't necessarily know if Houston's better, on a neutral field than Chicago is, and they're only laying 2.5. After a beatdown on Sunday Night Football on the Packers, I hope they're willing to bounce back. Mostly, I'm just avoiding this game, though. If I had it, it's my main reaction, but I'd have to avoid.
Yeah, the only thing here that intrigued me was that 38 on DraftKings, maybe at it the over there. I mean, two bad teams playing each other. Houston put up some points against Indy 2 weeks ago, and then put up a relatively low score against Denver this week. And then Justin Fields just hasn't looked amazing. I think he's got 2 weeks in a row around like 10 completions or less. Granted, he had the sloppy game week 1, but not sure what type of offense you're going to get in those games. But 38 is a low number sitting there. And, I mean, put 3 touchdowns each team, you hit that over. So depends what teams you're going to get out there on the field, but I really don't want to touch anything here either.
Well, the teams that I see, at least, and it might not always be the case, but if you're even watching yesterday, Chicago against Green Bay, they're trying not to turn the ball over. They're running the ball, and they're down 2 scores. So I can't really trust Chicago to put their foot on the gas for anything. Now maybe they have a better, there's a better defense here, and you can see Justin Fields playing well. You can see Davis Mill playing well on the other side as well. But for the most part, I think both of these teams are grind it out, control the clock kind of teams, and they don't care if the score is 10-7, they're happy. If they're the winner, they're happy. It does not matter. So these games scare me. For me, it's just a general avoid. It could happen. I'm not predicting it.
Yeah, I think you avoid this one if you can.
All right, next. I am not going back to this well, but we've got the Vegas Raiders at Tennessee. Vegas favored -1.5 on the road. I'm gonna lean Tennessee on this side. It just seems like this is. I don't see them winning this game. They could probably take advantage of the Raiders here in this situation, even though, they're not. I don't know which one's necessarily the better team at this point. I'd probably just take the home team.
Yeah, I was leaning Raiders here. I think their offense is a little bit more touchdown worthy than what the Titans are going to have. But I mean, the Titans did not look good against the Giants week 1, and I'd really want to see what Tennessee does tonight against Buffalo. I mean, I think that this line could very well change depending on what the outcome of tonight's game looks like.
Yeah, they certainly got punched in the mouth. Going up to Buffalo on the road, they know that's going to be a tough game, and if they end up losing it, I know they're going to fight hard for it. They've got a short week of rest, but I feel like they're going to have to make some changes, especially after this game if they lose like we're predicting. And if that's the case, I can't see them coming out with that same energy. Hopefully they will have the changes made, and Mike Vrabel's usually a pretty good at making adjustments, so I'm hoping that they'll put a good team effort forward. I just can't see them losing 3 in a row. I just can't see it. Even with Buffalo here in the middle, I can't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee has been a good team the last couple of years. Play good defense, run the ball, control the clock. So I'm curious to see after this Buffalo game what kind of adjustments they can make against Las Vegas next week. But I think I still like Las Vegas in that one at -1 right now.
Yeah. For me, I still have it technically as an avoid, but I'm just sort of providing that I'll take Tennessee on that side. Moving on to Kansas City at Indianapolis, another 1:00 game. If you got Kansas City at -6, I'd say good for you. Right now, it's moving to 6.5. Gets a little hairier from there, and again, I think it's only going to go up. So if you feel good about them beating them by a touchdown, maybe you still take it. But I felt really good at 6. I don't feel as good at 6.5.
Yeah, six would have been that perfect spot for me, but I'm still going to take KC as a best bet at 6.5. I think that Mahomes is going to do Mahomes things, and Indianapolis has looked so bad. They looked really, really bad this week against the Jags, and then last week against Houston, which are supposed to be 2 of the lower tier teams in that division. So not a good start for Indianapolis. They could come out hot, trying to make a statement against the Chiefs at home, but I still think Mahomes is going to go in there and take care of business.
How do you feel about the over-under in this game? We're looking at 49 on DraftKings, 48.5 on FanDuel.
I don't really. If I do anything, I'd probably take the. That's tough because you don't know what Colts you're going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes could go out there and put 40 points up himself, and the Colts would only need a touchdown or two to get you to that, get you to the over. But I'm saying you just don't know what you're going to get. So I might not even try to touch the over under there.
Yeah, and with all this line, I'm still going to have to take. I'm gonna come with you on -6.5 still with Kansas City. I think ultimately I've had a few things move on me, but I'll take Kansas City. You're right. They have not looked good. We still don't know if Shaq Leonard's going to be back, and if he's not back, their defense is in big trouble.
And if Michael Pittman doesn't play again, then that offense is in big trouble.
Exactly. I mean, they're in big trouble. Honestly, it's starting to look offensively like they're in big trouble even with Pittman. Obviously, he seems like outside of Jonathan Taylor, he's like the only game in town for him right now. It feels like you can expect. I don't know if we can expect anything from a guys like Ashton Doolin on a regular basis. So, yeah, if Pittman's out, if Shaq Leonard's still out, I can't. I think the touchdown is still probably good. So if you still got it, fire away. If you got it at 6, even better. Moving on, Buffalo at Miami. In Miami, you just got a taste of that Miami offense here back at Baltimore. Let's actually. Why don't you give me that while we've got you? Why don't we give you your thoughts on that game first?
Started off really good. I took one video of the entire game, and it was Devin Duvernay taking it to the house, coming right in my corner of the end zone, and it was awesome. I mean, we're up. What were we up? We're up 3 scores with 30 seconds left in the third quarter. Going to the fourth quarter, we're up by 21 points. And it's like our run game couldn't do anything. They had no pressure on Tua. And Tyreek Hill and Waddle were just finding space everywhere. It was unreal. It was hard to watch. But I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was looking at the Ravens. Greg Roman went back to basic, boring playbook. I think he needs to stick with what was working, and he went away from the first 3 quarters of the game plan, and then went to try to run the ball. Our running backs have been horrendous this year. Outside of Lamar, a rushing game doesn't exist, but think there's a lot of stuff that they need to talk about before we go into next week up to New England.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's crazy. We're leading into the Dolphins and the Bills here, and just seeing the way that they've exacted their game plan. I get playing against the Patriots in Week 1, them having a completely different approach. They're a team that doesn't look like they're gonna, they're not scoring many points on a weekly basis. The Patriots just don't have the offense to hang with the Dolphins. But when you're playing a team like Baltimore, and when you see a team like Buffalo coming into Miami, it's still hot out here in September in Florida, right? They're already playing this thing like a track meet. So they're not going to be a better team than Buffalo, but they are a faster team. And for me, I still feel like there's going to be plenty of big plays. So right now, one of my best bets is going to be the over in Buffalo, Miami, 51.5. So I think ultimately they're gonna try keeping up. They're gonna hope that obviously Josh Allen they can keep him off the field, but really that's not where they're gonna end up scoring points because that defense is stout. So what you do is you take what you have as an advantage and you exploit it to the nth degree. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen, especially at home, especially when they have, when it's still hot, when they have the heat advantage, and you're getting your players running. You get your players running more than they probably have in any other game they've had in their life, and for me, that just seems like an advantage. I'm going to hammer the over, and I might think about taking the Dolphins and the points as well.
Yeah, I was looking at taking the over here as a lean, not one of my best bets for the week. I do like that 51.5 there. But I mean, Buffalo's Buffalo. I mean, they're gonna put up the points, and I mean, they showed Week 1 that they can take care of business against the Rams, and I don't know. I still like Buffalo at -4.5 there on DraftKings, but I'd rather take the over in this one.
And I guess for me, it would be a lean on FanDuel 5 points, taking 5 points from Miami. Oh no, yeah, 5 points from Miami. That's so we'll take that best bet 51.5 over, and you can throw the 5 points on Miami. You can give 5 points to Miami. Moving right along to Detroit, Minnesota. Minnesota's favored -7. Over under 53. This is another bet that I had thought about taking the over, and it jumped 3 points in an evening. So now I'm not so sure. I'm a little more trepidation about it, but I am willing to take the 7 points for Detroit and let that go. I think this will be a divisional game, probably a little closer. Detroit has shown they can hang, and if you're playing any fantasy players against Detroit, just let them go. Detroit's gonna hang, and they're gonna keep these games interesting. So for me, let's take the 7 points for Detroit.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. I'm gonna lean that 7 to Detroit. I mean, I said it earlier with Pittsburgh and Cleveland. These divisional games are a lot closer than what some of these lines show, and Detroit has shown that they can put the points on the board. I think Jared Goff's got that chemistry with those receivers, especially with Amon-Ra right now. He is absolutely lighting up everybody, and Swift has looked good. And I think that the Lions have a spark in them. And they showed it last year. They were competitive in a lot of games. They lost a lot of games by less than 3 points last year. And, I mean, they're showing now, like, Dan Campbell looks like to be a light for those guys, and they look to be playing excited football. So I'd definitely like to see Detroit here at +7 in a divisional matchup.
I'd love to see what they look like away from home, and I don't know if I'm taking a win over Carson Wentz in Washington at home is necessarily the biggest victory in the world, but they do play hard. You're absolutely right about that. And again, that's what I like to see for fantasy. We're not talking fantasy on this show necessarily, but you like to see teams that are gonna, they're going to compete to keep scoring moving. And Detroit is one of those teams for me. So really, I think it'll be closer than it looks. Let me ask you this: Do you take Minnesota to win the game, or are you taking Detroit outright?
Oh, so I still think Minnesota wins.
I still think Minnesota wins too. So what does this have to go down? What does this 7 point line have to go down to for us to sort of think about going the other way? Is it 3? Is it 4? What are we thinking?
I think it's like if it's at that
Because for
four,
me,
that,
I'm
that
I,
four is
I
that four is tough because I mean it could ultimately come down to a field goal game. Um, man, that's a tough one.
For me, I think I'd be willing to take the 3. I would be willing to take the 3 for sure. 4 does make it a little tougher, but I feel good about moving back to the Vikings once it gets in the 3 point range.
Yeah, I think 3.5. I'd be willing to take Minnesota.
3.5 is tough though. Three
It's
again,
it
it's
is yeah,
you
it's
know
still tough.
it's yeah, again, like you said, they're a close playing team. They've won a lot of close, or they lost a lot of close games last year. So you think that half point is a really big difference in a cover for them.
No, if it gets that low, I probably wouldn't take either team against the spread.
Sure. Yeah. Once again, if you can get through 4 and down to 3, yeah, let's make it happen for me. But if it's probably, I think by the end it'll probably come around to like 5.5, something like that by the end. Let's move along to your Baltimore Ravens coming up to New England. Why don't you give me your prediction here?
I'm taking my Ravens at -3 as a best bet. Um, I mean that New England team doesn't look like they're going to score a lot of points. Granted, that defense is a little bit better than what we've probably seen this year, but I mean the Dolphins went in there, they took care of business against New England. I think that Baltimore is going to come back from this high scoring loss and just try to absolutely steamroll New England. So I'm going to take us at -3. And I think Lamar's going to be playing angry, and we might see another 4 touchdown performance out of him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a best bet for me, but I would definitely be interested in taking Baltimore at this point. Um,
And my
I,
my best bets, I've taken this is my second time taking the Ravens in a best bet, and they are by no means a homer pick.
yeah. Well, hey, it's
Just throwing that
this.
out there.
It's. I mean, you don't need to explain much. New England just looks bad. I mean, they are going to be a team that's going to try and grind out games. So I might take this as take the under here at 44, but I can't see them winning, and I can't see it being closer than a field
New
goal.
England's game, I mean, they want to control the ball, run the ball. And the
Exactly.
Ravens' run defense has always been our strength. Um, and I just think that if you put the ball in Mac Jones' hands, I don't think he's going to be able to put the points on the board that he's going to need to put up to beat the Ravens.
Yeah, he has not looked good and honestly, even last week, if it weren't for a muffed punt, they probably wouldn't have covered that game last week either. So yeah, I would aim for Baltimore -3, maybe even hitting the under, and I think Baltimore is fine. For me, Baltimore is probably fine with letting the under come into play. They're not going to worry about the score. They're just
I
going to want to
could
beat the Patriots handily.
I could see this being like a 21, 24, 28 to like 7-13 type of game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am as well. All right, moving on to Philly at Washington. Philly favored -4, 50 points over as the over/under on DK, 50.5 on FanDuel. I'm gonna take Philly -4 as a best bet. I think. I just like the way they've been going. I know that Carson Wentz has been able to hang on, and I know that they have looked really good and have surprised. I don't know if that continues forever. This is probably their first defense that you're looking at as being a real challenge. And Carson Wentz made plenty of questionable looking plays in both of these games that he's played so far. He does have a good receiving core, but that doesn't always come into play. Philly always plays them tough, and I think they come out and win handily.
Now, exactly what you said about Carson Wentz. I had a discussion on one of my leagues yesterday. It's like Carson Wentz last year finished, depending on how your scoring was, he finished between quarterback 12 and 14, and he looked horrible last year, but still put up the fantasy values. And I was telling my guys, like, I have him as my QB2 in a lot of super flex leagues this year. And it's like, I don't care what the game looks like, how sloppy it is, as long as he puts the points on the board, that's all I care about for fantasy. But looking at this one from an actual football perspective, I do lean more towards Philly at -4. I think it could be a high-scoring game. I mean, Philly's defense isn't necessarily the strongest. They gave up a lot of points to Detroit last week in Week 1 in a game that they should have ran away with. So I think there could be some points on the board from both sides here, but I do give the edge to Philly here, but I probably won't bet this one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll. Yeah, I think ultimately I put them as a best bet, so I'm taking them. But it is a division game. You know, you have to watch out for that. Ultimately, though, I don't really believe in either quarterback. I just believe in the Eagles as a team far more than I believe in Washington, and I'm willing to lay that on the road. Even still, this is going to be a very big game right now. The Eagles need to make some ground. They need to beat these. This is the team they need to beat. They're the team with Super Bowl aspirations. I don't know if they're making the Super Bowl. That's not my prediction. But they're the team with Super Bowl aspirations, and they need to win these games in their division. So if they don't lock this up and win it handily, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers because Jalen Hurts has the leash for this year. I don't know if he has it. I don't know if he has it for more than this year. I don't know if that's the case. And if they're not winning the games they need to win, if they lose, say tonight, and then on in Week 3 against Washington, then there's going to start being some questions. I just don't see this being a scenario where they let up, and I think they're just going to beat Washington handily. That's all I've got to say on it. Moving right along, Cincinnati at the Jets. -4.5 for Cincinnati. 45 over/under on DraftKings. 45.5 on FanDuel. What do you think, Shuey?
Well, this line has changed in the last 2 hours. I had it as a best bet as smashing the over at 43.
Yes.
Had a little think about it, a little more at 45. Still seems enticing. I think this could be a pretty high-scoring game. Cincinnati has looked bad, and I think they regroup and get themselves back online. And Joe Flacco looks to be somewhat productive over there in New York. Late comeback against Cleveland last week. Garrett Wilson was an absolute monster. So I can see this being a high-scoring game, and we'll say I'm still going to take the 45 over here as a best bet.
Okay, 45 over is the best bet. I'd probably still lean that the over gets hit at the end of this game, right? That's a 20 to 20, 21 to 24 game. That's about where I can see it going. Although I am going to take. For me, I'm leaning Jets at +4.5. I know that Cincinnati is probably the better team, but really the Jets are playing well and they're competing. They're giving their best. Cincinnati is trying to figure something out. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's just offensive line protection because it's not looking great so far.
They've got a Super Bowl hangover.
They've got a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. They're getting the biggest shot from everyone. So I really think that if the Jets can if the Jets can continue to hang 4.5, they could win. I think that at the end of the game, it's probably a 4-point game at the end. Maybe it's 20 to 24 or something like that. So I'll take 4.5 Jets. That's technically a lean for me, but I will take that. And moving on to New Orleans at Carolina, our last 1:00 game. I bet the Saints as a best bet at -3. If it's -2.5 right now, but I'm still going to say go ahead and make that your best bet. And you can sleep soundly knowing that Baker is trash. So best bet for me, New Orleans -2.5. You can get it on either site. Joe, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I'm taking the same thing. I'm taking the best bet there for New Orleans at 3 or 2.5. And like I said, Baker is doo-doo.
Yes. Everybody was so hype about that one pass in the preseason where you got a really cool camera angle of him of him not even completing a ball to Chuba Hubbard, but it went through two defenders' hands. It was tipped in the process, and all of a sudden, and people were still proclaiming him as a great passer. Where are those people now? There's no decision making, and I put out a tweet about that video. The decision was not good. The decisions Baker makes on a week in and week out basis continue not to be good. Matt Rule and Ben McAdoo are not going to be there to provide the advice he needs to get through this. He needs a different coaching staff. He needs to probably sit a year and clipboard and then think about being a backup. For me, I get that the NFL is really desperate for quarterbacks, but I don't think he's starting caliber. It's hard for me to feel like he's starting caliber. And I'm not going to change my mind on that until he shows otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to give him a couple more weeks, kind of get in the groove of things there. I mean, Carolina's not going to be a very good team. My Carolina division winner bet is going to go out the door. I made that bet back when Carolina was in the running for Watson, and he had a chance of playing this year. So I'll throw that one out the door. Luckily, it was only a $5 bet.
I'll feel good knowing that I took the under on 6.5 wins.
I still have I still took DJ Moore at over 4.5 touchdowns to see if he can finally eclipse that 5 mark.
You would hope so. I mean,
if I get another like 1,204 season out of him, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, he's such a good receiver. You really hope that things can turn around, or he can get himself to a place where he can be used, because they're just wasting his career out there.
Right. I mean, and Baker's the best quarterback he's had by far. So
yeah,
hopefully he can get in there.
All right, we're moving into the 4:00 window. We got Jacksonville at Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are -7, favored -7, 48 on DraftKings, 47.5 on FanDuel. And I had it as a lean, but I think I'm going to upgrade it now until we hear anything better. I think I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars as a best bet at +7. I know it's crazy to think going into Los Angeles, but we also don't know what Justin Herbert's quarterback status is for that game. I assume he's probably playing, but we just don't know. Jacksonville has at least shown that they're playing competitive. For whatever reason, maybe call me crazy, but I feel like seven for Jacksonville is a little too much.
Yeah, I like the +7 there on Jacksonville too. I mean, their offense has shown that they can put some points on the board, and I think that getting within 7 could be well within that reason this week. Like I said with Herbert, he's got the injury there. We don't know what percentage he's going to be at come Sunday. I imagine he plays because he's a tough dude, and he came back in that game and finished out. But he looked like he was hurting. So as long as the new trainers over there don't do what they did to Tyrod last year, I think that Herbert will be in that game and will be ready to go, but I don't think it'll be quite 100%. It was kind of funny because as soon as like that happened, like the next day, or like I think it might have been on Sunday, the Tyrod that was suing the team doctor came out on Sunday, and it was like right after Herbert got hurt, and people were making memes about it. The lawsuit.
Yes, came out. The Anakin Skywalker meme I saw out there was really very funny. I'm realizing now, though, that's not going to end up being that will just be a bet for me. It won't be a best bet. I've got another one coming here, and I think the count still has me taking this other one. So we'll move along. Let's go with Green Bay at Tampa Bay. The line has moved. It was -3 for Tampa Bay. It's down to -2.5. 41 over/under on DraftKings, 42.5 on FanDuel. So if you're looking to hit the over, look at DraftKings. If you're looking to hit the under, look at FanDuel. We don't really know what's going to be, who's going to be playing in this game for Tampa Bay. I don't think we're looking at a suspension for Mike.
It's already been announced. 1 game.
Oh, 1 game. All right. Well, then, that I must have missed that. I apologize. So if that's the case, I don't know. I still can see them winning the game. I can still see them winning by a field goal. Even their defense is far better than than what the Bears put up. Green Bay even had struggled playing on the road against Minnesota in Week 1. Obviously, I think that they'll probably hang. It'll probably be a close game. But yeah, I think I'll still lean Tampa Bay minus 2.5.
Yeah, I was leaning Tampa Bay as well. Even when it was at 3, I think that they'll still be able to put some points on the board. Um, the over under at 41 was really intriguing up until the Mike Evans announcement. Um, so curious to see what that moves to. I think for Tampa Bay, I mean, you look at their defensive strategy against Green Bay. Green Bay really goes through Aaron Jones right now. He was a monster last night. He put up his "I'll win you this week in fantasy football" efforts last week. He always has one of those big 30-plus point games. So I mean, I think if Tampa Bay can try to take Aaron Jones and then a little bit of AJ Dillon out of the game and kind of make those their preliminary defensive targets, then I think Tampa Bay has a really good shot at winning this game.
Yeah, the run game for Green Bay seems to just be like the glue that's keeping them making first downs. It's not the pass game so much anymore. Not that Rodgers didn't have great plays. He made a pretty good connection with Sammy Watkins a couple times last night. But
And they really didn't need the run game. I mean, they didn't really need the passing game a whole lot yesterday.
You're right.
They controlled that game entirely. So it might come out that they might need to throw the ball a lot more against Tampa Bay.
I'm sure they. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say Lazard was back for his first game of the year, and he had I think 2 catches for 9 yards and a touchdown, or something really small. He only put up like 9 points yesterday for looking at it from a fantasy perspective.
Sure, but even going back to the Minnesota game when they were trailing, it just felt like they couldn't get much going without the run game being involved. Yeah. So until they show that, I mean, obviously they're playing against the Bears. I own you. Quote Aaron Rodgers, right? That's not going to be a problem for them to get away with, and they'll ultimately use the run game because they're going to be so far ahead of the Bears, by the end of the game anyway. But when it comes to Tampa Bay, the question is if they shut down Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, is there enough left in the pass catching core that can sort of keep moving the ball down the field against one of the better defenses in the NFL? Right now, I kind of feel like I'm not for that. The under is starting to look pretty enticing to me. And again, if FanDuel, it's 42.5. So if you're going to do that, go there. Both of those would be leans. So Tampa Bay minus 2.5 and under 42.5 are my leans for this game. Let's go on to another game that I'd rather just not talk about. That's Atlanta at Seattle. Seattle is favored minus 1.5, 41-point over-under. I'm gonna lean the under as a bet here, but it's tough for me. I think ultimately Pete Carroll's again another one of those teams that he would win 0-3 if he could. So for me, 12th man, Geno Smith has been somewhat capable at least as a game manager. In the first game, they're back at home. So you can see them having an easier time there, a much tougher time for Atlanta, who's had some pretty good offensive showings, or at least put up some points in the past couple weeks. I don't necessarily know if that comes into play. They probably shouldn't have been so close last week or yesterday. And for me, I think I will take Seattle and give the points.
Yeah, it's another one that this could be a very ugly game. I do like the under here at 41.5. If I was looking at the spread, I'd also probably take Seattle.
Yeah, let's just move on from this one. Let's go to Los Angeles Rams at Arizona Cardinals. Rams are minus 4. It was 4.5 at one point. It's come down a little bit. Makes it a little more interesting. We got 51 on DraftKings, 50.5 on FanDuel. I don't want to pick this game at all, to be honest.
I don't either.
I don't want to pick this game at all. If I were looking, I might consider Rams on the money line, but I don't even know. I'm not comfortable even doing that, to be honest. So for me, as an avoid, the line's going to have to change a pretty considerable amount. Even the over/under, that seems like it could happen again. With Arizona put up a good amount of points in with the last 5 seconds and into overtime in that game against the Raiders. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen again. So I can't see them going over. It's doable. It's all just seems very murky. I think this is just a stay away. So let's move ahead to San Francisco at Denver. San Francisco is favored -1. If you got them at +1.5, San Francisco was a best bet. But even still, I will take San Francisco at -1 as a best bet here. I think ultimately they're a better team than they let on. They lose Trey Lance. They bring in Jimmy G. There's still continuity there. He still looked great for what you want Jimmy G to do. He didn't look fantasy great out there, but he looked good as a
He's
game
NFL
manager.
good.
He's NFL good. Exactly. That's exactly right. So I think this 1 point we don't. Something is wrong with Denver, right? And I think everybody's thinking it's Nathaniel Hackett. I'm kind of starting to lean that way as well. I don't know if I was leaning that way. It was very easy to see that he muffed the first game with the field goal, didn't put it in Russ's hands. Hasn't had great decision making with timeouts and play calling in these first 2 weeks. So yeah, -1. Give it to me. Best bet. San Francisco -1.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at San Francisco at +2 or +1.5 earlier today. If you were taking that earlier today, you're pretty much looking at a San Francisco win. So I mean, I'll still take San Francisco at -1 there. That little change there doesn't sway me too much.
Any interest in the over/under here, Shuey?
No. This game I think has the potential to be either a low scoring or a high scoring game, depending on how the run game for San Francisco looks and how Russ comes out. I think this very well could be a 24-21 type game that would get you right at the over, but I could very well see it also being like 14-21.
Yeah. The only thing I think we're still going to see some offense. It's a Sunday night football game. It's Russ already had one bad primetime showing. I think ultimately he's got pride on the line, so I think you could see it go over pretty easily, but I don't think that's what the 49ers necessarily want to do, and I don't even know if that's what the Broncos want to do. I think that's just what Russ wants to do.
Right.
So for me, I'm just going to say avoid it. Still take
Russ wants to cut.
Exactly. But for me, yeah, just we'll take San Francisco -1 and we'll move on from here.
But it is funny though with San Francisco's quarterback situation, how everyone was calling Lance bad NFL quarterback, great fantasy quarterback, and now you get Jimmy G, who is the good NFL quarterback, horrible fantasy quarterback. So I'm curious to see how much that game plan changes from Lance to Jimmy G. I think we'll see a lot of what we saw last year with the 49ers trying to control the clock, put the ball in Debo's hands, and see what happens.
I can't necessarily be willing to say that Trey Lance is a bad NFL quarterback. I think
No.
I think he's incomplete at best. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. I know it wasn't you saying it, but it's it just seems like a bit of an overreaction for me. He's
Well,
so
we
young.
could
He's
say
played
that
3 games.
if he was a bad NFL quarterback, if he came out and was bad, he would be a good fantasy quarterback because of the rushing upside.
That's true. That is true. All right, moving along. Dallas at the NFC division leading New York Giants. My New York Giants are favored favored at -2.5 for the second, favored for the second week in a row. And over under 39.5 on both sites. One of my bets for this game is the under. I will take that. I don't like the quarterback matchup. I don't really believe in either quarterback. I think ultimately these are both teams that are going to want to use Zeke and Tony Pollard and Saquon to really just to rush this game away. It's a tough one. If you got Dallas at +3 when you had it, and I did take Dallas at +3. Good for you. I don't like it at 2.5. I don't like it at 2.5. I do like it at 3, just not at 2.5. Because I ultimately do still see. I don't know how, but I still see the Giants winning this game. What do you think, Shuey?
Yeah, I like the under the best here, but I think I still also lean Dallas at plus 2.5. I think that the defense there is still intact. They're going to keep the Giants to low scoring, and I think that Cooper Rush and the rushing attack there can do just enough to squeak out a win here for Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like an emotional game, this last one for them. I know obviously it's a division game. It's going to be a close one.
I'm waiting for the Giants to fall back to earth.
I am too. I just don't know if this is the game. I think ultimately with Dak Prescott out, they probably smell blood in the water, and the Giants are starting. Despite how bad their offense still looks and how bad their defense looks, they are starting to believe that the coaching and the system that they've got is working.
Who's your leading receiver right now?
Oh my gosh, it's probably still Sterling Shepard.
From that one touchdown last week, or from week 1.
Yeah, I think it's still Sterling Shepard with like 80 yards. But it's not good. They did get a 1 receiving touchdown this week to Daniel Bellinger. But the best bet it's not a best bet, but my bet in this game is the under at 39.5. And if it's that close, or if it's that few points scored, I think ultimately it ends up being a Giants win. Giants money line past 2 weeks has done me well. I probably should stay away, but I don't know if I can.
You want to take a gander at our underdog teams here and give a little rundown of what we got?
Yeah, sure. Hold on, let me pull that up.
So looking at the draft summary, we did a 3-man snake draft. Each person gets 6 players: 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and a flex. Our random stranger buddy, he's projected 82.7 points. Myself, I am projected at 81.2, and Mark is sitting on the bottom there, projected 75.4.
Yeah, I got the autopilot monster bit me there. I was happy to get Jalen Hurts in the first round and come back with Stephon Diggs. Didn't want that stack to end up coming through. But even still, I think you can still do well with a naked Jalen Hurts. So not getting a stack other than Miles Sanders is kind of okay with me. Monday night game, I think they're going to try and control the clock a little more. And so you might see a little more running game with Miles Sanders and all them through the 20s. So my 6 that I ended up going with was Jalen Hurts. I got Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen as my wide receivers. Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, and my tight end is Irv Smith. What did you got, Shuey?
Let's see. I had the number 2 pick. I took Josh Allen as my quarterback. Ran with 1 running back with Dalvin Cook. Wide receivers, I've got A.J. Brown, Isaiah McKenzie, and Robert Woods. And then at tight end, I cleaned it up with Dallas Goedert. And just to note, Mark had the 3 pick and sniped my Diggs Allen stack on purpose, just so I didn't get it.
I don't know if it was just so you didn't get it, but I was actually So one other reason why I got autopiloted is I accidentally entered 2 of these at the same time, and I started Hurts. AJ Brown in that one, and I still was going to take Hurts, but I wanted a different receiver, so I went Stephon Diggs, and then I was going to come back around with Devontae Smith, and I timed out right before I could make the pick, and they put me on autopilot from there. So I was a little annoyed about that, but I'm still actually feeling pretty good about this lineup where it is, and we'll have to see how it ends up.
And if you want to look at the third team here, they've got Kirk Cousins, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, Gabe Davis, Devonta Smith, and Dawson Knox. So
yeah,
it could work well for us if Gabe Davis doesn't play, but if the Kirk Cousins Jefferson stack goes nuclear, we could be in trouble.
Yes, if it does go nuclear, we could be in trouble. That's for sure. On a different note, I'm hoping that comes through for one of my big money leagues. So it'll be conflicting today. But we had a great time here. Make sure you go get some of those best bets. Let's run them down. I had the Chiefs -6.5, Detroit +7, Philly -4, New Orleans -2.5. I had San Francisco -1, and it's not a best bet, but I really do like the under on the Dallas New York Giants game. It's 39.5 right now. Shuey, what do you have?
I've got Pittsburgh at +3.5, KC at -6.5, Baltimore at -3. I have the Cincinnati Jets over at 45, and I've got New Orleans at -2.5.
All right, we didn't have anything to go to butt up against each other yet this week. Nothing that
No,
I was too worried about. I'm gonna be a little more careful this time. Got to make sure that I'm not stuck. I'm pounding a beer at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night every week here. But we'll get another one here soon, and hopefully one that I don't lose with just 5 seconds left in the game to go.
but Mark, if next time we have the Shuey bet, if you have to take a Shuey, you had to take it out of one of your running shoes from one of those half marathons. No more daughter's rain boot.
Oh, those are long gone. I've already tossed those, but we'll see. I could probably make that happen. How about don't make me do that. Don't make me trip. I mean, oh God. I was just looking for something that didn't stink. My feet just don't feel appetizing anymore.
I will say that with the rain boot, I feel like that the rain boot doesn't soak up as much of the beer as what a normal shoe would. So I think you got what?
Well, that's what I was going. That's what I was going for. I was going for not ruining a pair of shoes that I use to run currently, or that's what I was trying to avoid.
The rain boot that you can spray out in the shower.
You know what? Next time, what I'll do, because I found out while I was drinking it last night that it actually lights up, so I'll light it up for you too. We'll have a good time there. For Shuey, you can find him at Shuey_FF. You can find me on Twitter at PrimetimeMock. Hope that you nail all your bets this week in week 3. We'll be out there again giving you the bets for week 4 next Monday. Shuey, can't wait for this game tonight. Hopefully, do you have any bets that you got money on right now tonight?
My one parlay lost. Let's see.
I'll say one that I really like this week. If you're interested in a prop, the yardage totals for Devontae Smith feel like they're a little too low right now. I think he's got 45 yards. I can't imagine they don't have him involved at all. At home, I think they're going to try and get everybody involved, and you're going to see a big play from Devontae Smith. He might end up breaking that in just one play or one or two plays. So I like Devontae Smith as yardage over right now. Again, I am still going to take 2.5 or take the points 2.5 and take Minnesota. I would take them on the money line, but I'm a little too chicken. I'll just take the 2.5. And it could this game. I'm really hoping for a shootout, but I'm thinking it is probably going to go the other direction.
Yeah, I just looked. I don't have any of none of my bets made it through for this week. But I probably will put something on Minnesota at 2.5 before that line has any changes tonight.
Yeah, I almost feel like it might make its way to 3, and then it's just a complete smash for me. Like it goes all the way to 3. It's a lock almost for me at this point. All right, I will. I think that's it. We had a good time this week. Again, nail all your bets out there. And be careful. Obviously, if you have a problem with gambling, make sure that you're only betting in amounts that you're not that you can cover, that you can't, that you're not overspending your limits. Gambling addiction is real. If you need help, please seek help. But other than that, we're here playing, having fun, getting to pick these lines, and bet a Shuey from Shuey or a Shuey from Shu. We'll keep that Shu v Shuey hashtag going most of the year here. I think we'll have plenty more of these where we butt heads.
I'm going to find one next week. If we don't have one, I'm going to find one just to make one.
There you go. That's right. Well, and you know what? Maybe here's the other thing, Shuey. We've got a long time until game time, right? We got a long time until these bets have to be played out. So let's check the lines maybe Thursday. Check them maybe Friday if we don't like the Thursday night game, and we'll find something eventually. I'm pretty sure. All right, guys. Have a great night. it was great doing this, and we'll see you again next week.